All right, let's talk about the Greeks. Chapter 5, review. Let's begin with the geography. The geography of Greece was mountainous, which separated all of the different Greek city-states. They call it the polis. That's what they call their city-states. So you have like Thebes, but most importantly, Sparta and Athens were the two big ones that we talked about. So those mountains that were all surrounding Greece was an archipelago, all those different islands. There was also a peninsula. It was just massively covered islands, which made it so that it wasn't very arable, not a lot of agriculture. They also had the sea, and the sea helped them trade with other people. So the mountains separated them from themselves, and the seas opened their trade up with other people, especially Athens, which became the dominant sea power in Greece. All right, so the city-state, two different city-states, Sparta and Athens. Sparta, whenever you think of Sparta, military state, warriors, all they cared about was military. The kids, age of 7, went off to war or went off to train to be warriors. They were in that military their whole life. That's pretty much it. Spartan means like no frills, no thrills, no art, no culture, no wealth, no money, no trading, just all very simple life. They didn't like new ideas. They thought they were dangerous. And so Sparta was just military. Athens, on the other hand, was strong mind, strong body, questioning thought. They had democracy, the world's first democracy, Athens, Greece, their city-state. All adult males could vote that were, citizens that were born in Athens. They could all vote. They all had a say in the assembly. Women didn't have a say. Slaves didn't have a say. Foreigners didn't have a say. But they did, they were much more open society and democratic society than any place we talked about and probably going to be any place for like 2,000 years. So those are the real differences. Sparta had a strong army. Athens had a strong navy. They came together, common enemy, they came together. So the mountains kept them apart and they distrusted each other, but they came together with a common enemy, Persia. All right, so Persia invades Greece. Athens enlists all these other people, including the Spartans, to come to their aid. They join together, common enemy, defeat Persia. Now the enemy's gone. After the war, after the Persian War, Athens kind of dominates, and Sparta gets jealous, and they're going to end up fighting the Peloponnesian War, Sparta versus Athens, and they're going to come to their end. But during this time period, you have like the great philosophers. Aristotle was the last of these, but you have Socrates, who had the Socratic method of teaching and asking all these questions, and then his student Plato. He didn't really like democracy that much. He thought philosopher kings should rule. He was the one that was kind of like divide up all society. He wrote the Republic, divide up all the goods in society. No one owns anything. His student, like I mentioned before, Aristotle, invented logic, which is like the form of rational thinking. If A is B and if B is C, then A is C, that kind of stuff. So he started the Lyceum. He was a botanist, a zoologist, all sorts of mathematician and astronomer. And all that stuff came for ancient Greece. Like that was all part of this, the playwrights. It was a golden age, right? Just like you had a golden age of the Gupta Empire, where there's advancements in science and math and technology and art and architecture. Architecture, those columns, those Greek marble classical columns that you had. Eventually, like I said, Sparta is going to defeat Athens in the Peloponnesian War, and Athens is going to crumble. You're going to get the Macedonians coming in, Philip II, and then finally, after him, his son Alexander the Great is going to come in, and Alexander the Great is going to kind of conquer the whole known world, go off into Persia and India and Egypt and conquer all these places, and he's going to marry off his troops to all those different people. He's going to bring architects and philosophers and mathematicians to all those places. He's going to start all these cities called Alexandria, the most famous of which is going to be Alexandria, Egypt. And that's going to be like they're going to build a library there and museums there, and all the famous architects are going to go to Alexandria, Egypt. It's going to become like this hub of Hellenism. Hellenism? What the heck's Hellenism? All right, Hellenism, remember, is the blending of Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and Indian ideas, and all those different ideas blended together give you Hellenism. They're going to be great advancements, assimilation, bringing different groups of people together into one, into these golden age times. Who are some of the people that came out of this? You have Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, mathematics. Euclid, geometry. He wrote the elements and had put all these like proofs and stuff together for geometry. You have Archimedes, who was not only a mathematician, but he built like different machines, like the lever and the pulley. And he was famous for having all the simple machines that he created. Displacement of water was another thing for him. Who else? You got Eratosthenes, who the circumference of the Earth, knew the Earth was round, and then like measured how far around it was and got it within a few miles or whatever. Let's see what else you need to know about. Different types of governments. All right, so you have the 5 different types of governments that we talked about in the city-states that Greece had experienced. Monarchy, which was king or queen. You have aristocracy, which was the rule by wealthy landowners, and that's hereditary. Like the king, queen was hereditary. When they died, their kids took over. Same thing with aristocracy. When they died, their kids inherit the land and they stay in power. Oligarchy was the rich elite, usually military control of a group of people or people from the same political party, all control the government, and the people don't really have a say in it. Small group, rich. You have democracy, which is kind of like the people rule. Demos meaning people, crassy government by the people rule. That's what Athens had from Greece. Then you have tyranny, and there's different types of tyranny. A tyrant is someone who's one-man rule. It's usually not, the people don't usually want them, but sometimes they do. But a lot of times it's by military force that they come in and they take over power, and they become like a dictator or an emperor or whatever. So that's a tyranny. That's the kind of governments they experience. But you also remember we have different governments that we talked about, like theocracy, where we're a religious ruler, anarchy, where there's no government, which doesn't last very long, direct democracy, which is where all the people vote, indirect democracy, where just the people that you elect vote. So that they kind of fall into those different categories too, those subcategories. But really, the main 5: monarchy, aristocracy, oligarchy, democracy, and tyranny. Those are the main 5 that you need to know. All right, I think that wraps it up. Hopefully you did all your CASA learnings and you're going to be prepared for the test.